Adequate notice of this meeting was provided and published in the Asbury Park Press and the Ocean Star on January 5th, 2018. Copies of the agenda were provided to the newspaper, posted on public bulletin boards in the Township website.
At this time, please silence or turn off your cell phones. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Here.
Councilman Halloran.
Here.
Vice President Crate.
Here.
Councilman Mumolo.
Here.
Councilman Fosman.
Here.
Councilwoman Ponterero. President DeYoung.
Here.
Thank you.
Everybody, please rise for a salute to the flag and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approve reports of municipal officers. Please accept and file these reports.
I will, thank you.
Thank you. Next is approve the minutes of our January 30th, 2018 meeting. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Fosman, second by Councilman Mumolo. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes.
Thank you.
We now have a presentation on school security by Chief Riccio. Chief, and I just want to recognize we have Acting Superintendent Mr. Dennis Filippone in the audience, along with Board of Ed member Melita Gagliardi, along with some of our distinguished officers of our police force. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. I just need to start by saying that our department has always had a concern for the safety of our children and the security of our schools. And to that end, we've been doing quite a number of things already. You know, it didn't take this tragedy for us to start looking at this, but like most towns across the country, when things like this do happen, you start to revisit and look at what you are currently doing just to see if you can improve. And of course, there's always room for improvement. So just some of the things that we are currently doing and have been doing for some time. Our officers are all equipped, the guys on patrol, myself even. We have cards that allow us access to each school, so we don't need to wait to be buzzed in or knock on the door. Our officers can go in at any time. We have that ability, we have that access, we've had that for quite some time. So we wouldn't be hampered by the fact that doors are locked or anything like that. We have our regular police officers, school resource officers in the two high schools. They have offices in there, and then they're there regularly. And if, as Mr. Filippone would attest, they are quite helpful in all the issues that they have on a daily basis in the high schools, assisting with the issues that arise, and they'll continue to be in there. Our officers conduct annual active shooter drills using actors and simunitions technology. What simunitions are is they're basically fake bullets, but when they hit you, you know it. Like they hurt, so you don't want to get hit with them. But the officers will put on different scenarios. In the unfortunate event that we ever did have a situation like that, the officers, it wouldn't be their first time where they encountered, that type of scenario. And we do that annually. Also, regular safety drills are conducted throughout the year with the teachers, with our SROs. They do tabletop exercises, what ifs, and they'll quiz the teachers on, if this was to occur or that was to occur, how would we react, and how, should you react? And they'll draw on our officers, for, what do they think that they should do? And that's done regularly. Our officers who administer the DARE program are Not Even Once, our lead and seed. They're in school most of the day, and there's 3 of them, pretty much from September through May. So at any given day, there are armed officers in at least the high schools and at different times the middle schools. We currently follow up on all reports of suspicious activity. We don't let those go by the wayside. If a report is given, our school resource officers will go visit their home, talk to the parents, whatever it takes to follow up and make sure that that the potential threat is looked at. And our officers are currently equipped with high-powered rifles. They always have been, but we just put in this year's budget to buy even more. We want to make sure that our officers aren't outgunned, and right now we are not, but just to make sure that we're well equipped to handle any situation that may arise. Now, some of the new initiatives, we had met, myself, members of my staff, the SROs, and Mr. Philippone met the day after, just to look at what we're currently doing and how can we improve. The one thing that I noticed, the common theme seems to be every time we have one of these across the country is they knew, we knew that kid was a potential problem. He was bizarre, he acted bizarre, and I think that's where we're missing the boat, even here. You get potential threats or reports of, or you're not getting the reports. People see bizarre behavior, and I realize in today's society, bizarre is the new normal, and that's where I feel we're missing the boat. And maybe we're missing it because we're not identifying the signs. So what I did was I contacted the department psychologist, we have 2 of them, and I said, is there anything that our officers should be looking for? And he actually got excited because I guess people don't ask him or ask the psychologist, or they're not coming to these people that are trained in this to say what we should be looking for. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having him train our officers, who could then go back to the schools, train our teachers, their faculty, and even students as to what to look for. What are the signs? Is there certain types of behavior that should be a triggering, should be triggering that somebody should be calling the police or making notification? But we need to go even further than that. What I think we're also missing the boat is, because bizarre is the new normal and we're so politically correct, I think maybe people are afraid to report things. If I say that, maybe they'll say I'm being biased, or, especially a teacher nowadays. You can't report little Johnny because he's dressed funny and doing it. Well, maybe you can, And so what we're going to do is we're looking at software where teachers, faculty, students, and even the general public can report suspicious act or what they think is out of the norm to us anonymously. And we'll follow up on all of those. And I realize that, especially when you're dealing with kids, we might get bogus ones just because they want to harass their friend and say, hey, he's suspicious and he does this. But you know what? I'd rather follow up on 10 of them and find one out of that that would maybe we deterred them from doing something. So that's another thing that we're looking to do. We're also going to be, well, right now we've actually ordered our officers that at least twice a day during their shift, they actually have to do a walkthrough through the schools. It was before that they, at least once on their shift, that they had to actually go onto the property or do what's called a premise check, go around so people would see the cars on the property. But now they actually have to get out of their cars, walk through the school, use those access cards that I talked about, and actually walk through the school at least twice. And we included St. Dominic's in that because I was in touch with the principal there. Also, we told our officers, sometimes you see officers talking on the side of the road, and I'm sure people are thinking, what are they doing? They're doing nothing. Well, a lot of times they're doing reports. So we said, instead of doing it, in the funeral home parking lot or wherever else you might see them, 5 corners, do it in a school parking lot, because now there'll be a police presence there. So they'll be doing that. We're also going to be utilizing, with our new schedule, and I know we've talked about that before, for those of you who are not aware, we started a new schedule last year, and officers owe us time back to where we do training and special details, like we'll do aggressive driver. They'll go out there, look for things like, people not wearing seatbelts or whatever, and it's basically on their days off, they owe us time back. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting together another detail where they actually will be doing security in the schools. They'll go from school to school and do those walkthroughs that the patrol guys are supposed to do during the day or during their shift. Well, now we'll have extra officers doing that, so you'll see even larger presence. We're also setting up, the patrol commander is setting up where every drop-off and pickup, we're going to have an officer on location, whether it be a plainclothes officer or an officer from patrol. So you should see a presence, and you might not. It might be somebody in plainclothes. All right. Went over the psychologist. We're also looking to, right now there are retired police officers in the schools. The schools employed them. They're not armed currently. But during that meeting that we had with Mr. Philippone, and also we had follow-up meeting with the Board of Education president, we talked about what they needed to do to have those off-duty officers armed. So myself, along with Mr. Philippone, are working toward that end to get the officers, the retired officers that are currently working in security, armed. I'm also looking to, and I'll be asking the council and the mayor to introduce an ordinance that would allow us to hire Class 2 and Class 3 special officers. Class 2 officers, right now we have Class 1s. They are not armed, and they only have a certain amount of training. But we'll be looking to, for any of our Class 1s that want to become Class 2s or Class 2s from outside, we'll train them, and they are armed. They are just short of being a full-time regular police officer. So we'll be looking to use them for security. And then Class 3s, that was a law introduced back in June, and Class 3 officers are retired officers. As long as you have been retired less than 3 years, we put you through training or retraining, and then you could be armed, and we use them as security in the schools. We're working on that also with Mr. Philippone. All right. We had also talked to, one of the things that came up at our meeting with Mr. Philippone was looking at their infrastructure and the way their security measures are currently set up with people entering the school. And we realized that some of the schools are lacking. Some of the schools have foyers where you can go in, you know, and then have to be buzzed in, and a lot of them don't. So in speaking to Mr. Philippone and the board president, I know that, and they could probably elaborate on that more at some other time, but they are going to dedicate money to make those entrances more secure. Yeah. The schools also, we talked about that currently right now, I guess the school does not have a psychiatrist or psychologist on retainer. We talked about them getting a psychologist on retainer. What that would allow them to do is if there is a student that we identify or the school identifies that maybe needs some type of counseling, it would make it that much easier for them to send them. Because right now, without one being on retainer, it's my understanding that it could take weeks for someone to be seen. But if you have one like we do, it's much easier to get the student in. We're also looking to hire a consultant to perform a security assessment. These people are trained in looking where you might be lacking in certain areas, and they're going to come into the schools, look at all the schools, and give us and the school board some ideas on how they can enhance security, aside from actual security guards. We're also looking at an app, some software, an app where teachers and students can immediately send a message to police reporting a threat. So if, God forbid, an active shooter came into the school through an app on their phone, they would be able to access that and send a message, and then it actually would show us where on a map that threat, where they're reporting from. Okay. Along those same lines, this is with the prosecutor's office. This was actually being worked on for some time. There's GPS software, which we'll be rolling out. The school had all of the schools in town mapped out. All the officers in town will have apps on their phone. So if there was some type of incident at the school, the officers can access it, bring up the map of the school. Any other officers that are on scene, on their phone, they could see where the other officers are. If they said, say for example, it's in classroom 62, they could map then and see on a map where that room is, and it'll allow officers quicker access to the location where the threat is. So that's in the works and has been for some time. We are also looking, well, we're going to purchase software which will allow our detectives to monitor social media. And what they can do is put in certain keywords, gun, kill, school, whatever, and we could do it by a geographical area. We could put in a name of a suspect, and it'll monitor all their social media and alert them if a potential threat word came up. And then we could look at their Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, and then see it, you know, and follow up on it. Recently, Broward County has that software and alerted us to someone in Brick that actually had stuff on their Facebook, and we went and followed up on it. Turned out not to be a real threat, but again, it's software that's available to us, and we're going to purchase that. And then everybody just needs to understand. So those are the plans we have, and we'll constantly monitor them, you know, and change them and tweak them as we see fit. But everybody needs to understand that we will never be able to remove a threat entirely. I mean, I'm going to go back to my firefighting days. Everybody hear of fire triangle? There's heat, oxygen, and fuel. Well, same thing with this. I look at it, there's three different things. There's mental illness, weapons, and victims. All right? Remove any one of those, and you don't have the potential. Well, we're never going to get rid of mental illness. I don't ever foresee us getting rid of guns. We're not going to totally be able to get rid of victims, but what we can do is do things to reduce the potential for you becoming a victim. And that's by doing all the things that I said that we were going to try and do. But again, I don't want anybody feeling that any one of these things or all of these things combined will ever totally eliminate the possibility of a threat. And understand, you know, it could be in any form. It doesn't have to be a gun. Those are the ones that make the news. It could be a knife. It could be, you know, any other type of weapon that's constructed. But we're going to do what we can, and I believe that we are here in Brick doing what we can to reduce the potential of our students and our faculty becoming victims. So, and that's what we're doing, and I just want to thank you for your time. Yeah. Well, we currently do the same technology that I talked about with the GPS and so forth is, I know Lakewood, Tom's River, so even if we went to, say, Ocean County Mall, it's just not schools, it's any potential threat. We're going to do the hospital and things of that nature. So if they came into town, they would have the same software and be able to see our officers, and vice versa, we would see theirs. So yeah.
Thank you, Chief. We really appreciate
Thank you.
all of your time, energy, and effort along with Mr. Philip on the school board and working with the township. We appreciate everything that you guys put into this.
And I do have to say that, forgive me for not having said it, Mr. Philippone has been great, board president, very open to all of our suggestions, and I know we're going to get some things done with the collaboration.
Goes both ways.
Thank you.
Police department's great with us.
So, there was a reason why we waited for our Students of the Month to get their awards. We wanted all of you and your families, your parents, to hear all of that. So I hope you take that knowledge with you. Tell your friends, tell your family, everything that we hear. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. We hear. Basically, I just wanted to. We waited for the Students of the Month to till after the presentation, so you can take all the knowledge that the chief was able to go back, tell your friends, tell your family, and just make sure that Brick Township is doing everything that we can do to keep our kids in school safe. And with that, I would like to invite the mayor, Council Vice President Crate, Mr. Philippone, if you would like to join us. We're doing our Students of the Month. Ms. Gagliardi, Ms. Wohlrab, our school board presidents here, if you'd like to join us for our Students of the Month presentations.
Welcome, everyone. Each month, the Town Council likes to take the time to honor the students of the month for both Brick Township High School and Brick Memorial. These students have had amazing academic success throughout the year, and we have confidence that they will continue to have great success for years to come. Congratulations to each and every one of you. You should be proud of your accomplishments. I'm going to start with Brick Township High School. For grade 9, we have Ethan Keegans. Is he here? Grade 10, Dylan Reich. Here. Come on down. Grade 11, Nicholas Kraft. No. And grade 12, Kristen Brutko. Thank you. And for Brick Memorial High School, for grade 9, we have Brian Halloran and Florence Lozano. For grade 10, we have Dominic Dlugos and Samantha Shornack. For grade 11, we have Matthew Bernstein and Trevor Pasternak. And for grade 12, we have Harley Donovan and Emily Simonitis.
Stand right here. We're going to go turn halfway. Yep, there you go. You guys come up and shake your parents. Come on up. Next, we have the mayor will be presenting the Community Development Block Grant awards, or money that the township is able to give, grants. Checks.
Big checks. Social service agencies provide an essential role. They provide basic, essential needs to our most vulnerable staff and do so with caring and compassion. Each year, the township receives community development block grant funds to use specifically for social service programs. We award these funds via grants to agencies and programs that are here in Brick that serve our residents here in Brick. So this year we received more than $125,000 worth of requests, but we only had $37,000 worth of CDBG funds to award. So unfortunately, there's a lot of deserving projects that aren't going to be able to be funded, or they're not going to receive the funding that they had requested. But I appreciate all the hard work of all the organizations that applied, and I'm going to be calling up a representative from each organization to receive their check. If I just name the organization, I don't think there's somebody here, but please come up if there is somebody here, and we will get you up here to make sure you get the check, but also to say a little bit about your organization. And I'm going to call everybody up one at a time, and they're in no particular order. So first up is Gina Lambusta of the ARC. She is receiving $2,000 for its transition service program that allows high school age children with intellectual and developmental disabilities to participate in a series of coordinated activities designed to promote the daily living and skills necessary to secure and maintain competitive employment opportunities. And I have to find it. I forgot I was supposed to do these in different order, some other order. You good? Congratulations. There's Chris.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the Community Development Block Grant funds. We appreciate it greatly. So with the Arc of Ocean County, we support over 500 people in our vocational services programs and a little over 175 now in our residential programs. We also provide recreational services and family support, providing respite and other needed services for families to have the opportunity to spend time away from or have their opportunity for their child to spend time away from them and do productive activities in the community. The ARC has been around for 63 years now, and we have greatly enjoyed working with all the communities in the Ocean County area. We are part of the National ARC organization. We look forward to continuing our service here, and thank you again for the funds.
Next up is Dottie's House. Dottie's House, they are receiving $2,000 towards providing transitional housing for battered women and their children. Next up, Caregiver Volunteers of Central New Jersey, and Mary Malagiri is here. She is receiving $2,000 for the transportation program, where volunteers provide door-to-door transportation to physician appointments, chemotherapy, physical therapy, lab work, and any appointments which are medical in nature, as well as grocery shopping.
Thank you so much. This is so appreciated. I can't tell you. Right now, for Brick Township, we have 350 homebound seniors that we help day in and day out, whether it is to get them to their doctor's appointments, doing food shopping, providing respite care for them. In fact, right up here in Brick Township, it began from one of your residents, the suggestion to begin our vet-to-vet program, which is just growing by leaps and bounds. So we partner a veteran with a veteran who can provide those much needed services. So there's so much more to be done, but this really is putting us over the top.
Jersey Shore Council Boy Scouts. They are receiving $2,000 towards scholarships for scouts from Brick Township to attend summer camps this summer. Next is Interfaith Hospitality Network, and we have Marion and Ann. They are receiving $2,000 towards their continuing efforts to provide short-term shelter and food for those in need.
I don't have to do that anymore.
Thank you so much, council members, Mayor Ducey. Interfaith Hospitality is, as our mayor said, a short-term respite. We are for working homeless families. You must be working, you must be homeless, and you must have children. The average age of a homeless child is 11. We have a 2-month-old in program. We provide services such as parenting, financial guidelines, and nutrition. We also read to our children. That's how I got hooked. They asked me to read to a child. We realized that it increased their vocabulary and also gave them a love for learning and for reading. We have found out last March that one of the children who I worry so greatly about, the stigma of homelessness, what does that have, what impact could it possibly have on them? one of the very first children that we had in the families is now a medical doctor at a prestigious New York hospital. We have one mother who is now going to be a professor. I have told people in the past about our LPNs going on to get their RN degree. We believe in education. We try to push them into bettering themselves through education and careers. We now have one family that has gone from homelessness to owning a home of their own. Without your help, we could not have done it. I thank you so very much.
Next is Ocean County Hunger Relief. They are receiving $2,000 as part of their effort to provide emergency food assistance to people in need. Next is Ida Cahill from Big Brothers Big Sisters. They are receiving $2,000 to support a mentoring program in Bricks Elementary Schools.
Well, you've heard from a number of people this evening, and you can see how passionate they are about their organizations and their missions and how much it means to them. There are so many wonderful organizations in this community that their only goal is to help the children, the homeless, the sick, the disabled, and they work really, really hard. I think some of them are chained to their desks so they don't go home. They put in many, many hours, so congratulations to everyone. We have a mentoring program. Big Brothers Big Sisters has been around for about 100 years. Ocean County, just 20 years. And we have lots of different programs. We match children with adults or small children with older children. One of the programs that we've just initiated is called Bigs in Blue, and we're starting this with the Toms River Police Department. And basically, the police officers will now be matched with the children in the community, because a lot of the children are afraid of the police officers, and they don't look at them as though they're friends and there to protect them, because they've seen the police officers in some instances arrest their parents and put their parents in jail. And we're trying to have a paradigm shift and change that. So it's one of the great programs I'm enthused about. And this past weekend, last week, I think we were all visiting one more time of young people being slain. And it's just so hard to take. And this young boy in Florida, he obviously had emotional problems. He had lost both his parents. I can't imagine being that young, losing both your parents. And I just wonder if he had a mentor in his life, if 17 people would be alive today. And I personally think that they would be. So thank you very much for this check. We will put it to good use. Thank you.
Next is Church of the Visitation Soup Kitchen. They are receiving $2,000 to help fund the Visitation Church Soup Kitchen, and one of the main volunteers there is Marilyn Lago, who's a township resident. Next is Joan and Tom from the Church of Epiphany, St. Vincent de Paul Society. They are receiving $3,000 to continue to provide temporary financial assistance to Brick Township residents in dire financial need to meet basic needs for things like utility bills and rent. So, thank you.
Just try to take the check back. Give him the check.
You can't cash that one.
you
want the
so-
paper one.
Right. Thank you so much for this $3,000 grant. It will make a big difference in the lives of the poor. St. Vincent de Paul Society is an organization that's been around for 400 years. Each Catholic church has its own conference. Ours is the Conference of Epiphany. Many of them have many members. We have just 12. So we work very hard. Two of us go into the home after we receive a call from a person who is in need. We go into the home, we sit down, we talk to them, we take the information. Sometimes by the time we're done, they're crying, we're hugging each other, and we make a difference. We either stop an eviction or a water bill that hasn't been on for 6 months, or heat, electricity. Sometimes we give them food cards if they have no money for food. But it's very humbling and it's very rewarding. And thank you so much, because without this we couldn't continue. God bless you. Thank you.
Next is Oceans Harbor House. They are receiving $8,000 to continue to provide outreach to vulnerable, okay, that's a tough word for me, teens, specifically by providing services to at-risk youth at the teen center. So that's, I don't know if Councilwoman Zapsik wants to follow up more on that. But
I think that's their team, that's their outreach, it's
It's
here
ours.
for here.
yes, it's for ours.
So no, I have nothing
Okay.
to add, because I didn't know about it.
Next up is Community Service Incorporated, Meals on Wheels, and Jim Sigurdsson. They are receiving $7,000 as part of their hard work to deliver hot, healthy meals to our seniors.
Let's go this way.
Perfect.
Pull my arm around you. Good. Take this one. I know I can't cash it. Mayor Ducey, Council President DeYoung, and members of the council, and residents of Brick Township, thank you. You know, I come here, I've been here many times, and every time I come here, I like to remind you of a couple things. I'm kind of absorbing all the stories that I hear today, and one of the things that I'm taking away from everything I've heard is that you ought to be really proud of the people that you've elected as your mayor and your council. And you ought to be very proud of your police department, of your schools, the superintendent and the leadership that they provide. The level of cooperation between these entities is amazing. How they're coming together in order to work out very difficult, very, very difficult problems, all for the benefit of the residents of Brick Township. And what I've absorbed is that basically the people that you've put in power through your vote are people who care enough to want to make a difference in the lives of the residents of Brick. And so they work very hard as well too, making sure that programs like Meals on Wheels and other programs receives the necessary funding in order to continue its work in the community, because as we all work together, we can all get the job done. Last year, our program served 283 residents of Brick Township. We provided over 34,000 meals, approximately $400,000 worth of services. Brick Township has been a faithful supporter of this program, and we do not, unfortunately, receive a lot of municipal support. But they have been a faithful supporter of our program for 20 years. I've been the executive director for 18, and every single year that commitment is renewed at this ceremony. But it's renewed every single day because the commitment of the people that you have put into power in your township goes far beyond just the money that they give us. We have connection with your council, with people who have an ear, or the ear of the people. When we have problems, we can go to your mayor, we can go to your town council, and we can seek redress, okay? Or we can ask questions, we can appeal for help. And they listen to us. In fact, often they're the ones coming to us asking what they can do to help us improve our program for you. That's really kind of rare in this day and age. They're not hiding behind their desks or their jobs. They're actually actively out there looking for ways to improve by approaching the programs and services, saying, what can we do to work together to make it better for the citizens of Brick? The transportation services alone that this township provides to the nutrition site at the VFW saved my program $70,000 to $80,000. As a result, I can take that money and reinvest it in the services that we provide here to the senior residents in Brick Township. So what I say to you is that you have an elected government that is successful and that is doing good work. You have programs and services like mine that are successful, that are doing good work. And you are a very big part of that success because you are the ones who empower the people to make this all possible for us. And so I thank you very much.
Next is Jennifer Bauer from Providence House. They are receiving $3,000 to support legal counseling for victims of domestic violence here in our municipal court.
Thank you. Providence House provides free services to victims of domestic violence. We've been in Ocean County for about 32 years. Last year we serviced 2,300 victims from Ocean County. That was either they came to our shelter, we met them in court, they came to our outreach, we talked to them on our hotline. In addition to providing safe house services, we also provide outreach services and a creative arts therapy program for children ages 3 through 12. But this funding tonight will go to fund our municipal court program. We send legal advocates to Bricktown Municipal Court 4 times a month, and during that time they meet with victims of Brick Township to discuss safety planning, referrals, and also to describe what the process is going to be like while they're here in court. We're lucky to really have this long-standing partnership with Brick Township, and with this funding tonight it really helps us accomplish all of our goals. So thank you again.
That is the conclusion. So we've heard some great stories from some great organizations. So if any students out there are looking for community service hours or any adults want to get more involved, you hear about a lot of these great organizations, you can reach out to my office and we will get you the contact information to volunteer for any one of these well-deserving organizations and projects. So thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mayor. We will be moving on to our consent agenda now.
All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If discussion is desired on any item, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Thank you. Resolution 4-1, authorize emergency temporary appropriations. This resolution allows us to increase line item department budgets by the amount specified, which has been calculated to get all departments through to the time of the adopted budget. 4-2, authorize receipt of bids, demolition, and secure property at 589 Allen Road. This resolution authorizes the receipt of bids for the demolition and to secure the property at 589 Allen Road as per a recommendation from the Township's Property Maintenance Board. Resolution 4-3, authorize receipt of bids, Bernie J. Cook Park reconstruction improvements. Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me, Madam President, to speak about this. I love when we are redoing our parks, and this is the next one in line. So it's authorized the receipt of bids for Bernie Cook Park. Bernie Cook Park is behind the Wawa, right by the new Parkway entrance there and exit. And so it's we had to wait for a time period until all that construction was done before we started our park construction. So this way we know exactly what's there, how much of the road is there now, and the fence that's there and everything else. And so it authorizes the receipt of bids for the renovation, and it's going to include the construction of 2 playgrounds, one for ages 2 to 5 and one for ages 5 to 12. We're gonna reorientate the softball field and move it so it better fits into the existing space, but it's actually going to be kind of angled a little bit differently. There's going to be a brand new basketball court with the glass backboards that we have at some of our other parks. There's going to be a perimeter walking trail, a bicycle safety track, which is a neat little thing that we're going to be able to teach our young children how to ride their bikes safely and learn how to navigate street corners and what certain signs mean, stop signs and yield signs and things like that are part of it. There's going to be a wide access driveway to encourage safe access to the park. Upgrades will also include low-level lighting, improvements to the electrical service, security cameras, and the installation of a well to support the necessary irrigation. There's also going to be a skate park, and it's going to be a skate park that is not like our other skate park, which is the metal ramps. And if there's skateboarders, there's probably none here, but if there's skateboarders that are watching at home, it's not going to be the metal ramp type that you see over at Drum Point that is really used for BMX bikes or scooters and things like that. It's going to be cement, all cement with rails and bowls, and it's really a skateboarders park designed by professional skateboarders. So also the playgrounds will be ADA compliant, and we'll have poured-in-place safety surface, which is that nice spongy stuff that when your kids fall, they don't get hurt because it's nice and soft for them. And the entire park is going to be re-landscaped. The township will be planting trees at the park that are funded through a grant from the state and under the no net loss. And I can't wait to see it. Basically, I can't wait for the groundbreaking with the shovel, but I really can't wait for the ribbon cutting when we let all the kids run out there for the first time. So thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 4-4, authorize award of second-year contract public safety uniforms. This resolution authorizes the award of a second-year contract to Samsies Uniforms and Galls, LLC, for public safety uniforms. The police chief recommends the renewal of this contract for the second year. Resolution 4-5, authorize award of bid, purchase, and delivery of one automated refuse collection vehicle. Councilman Fosman.
Thank you, Council President. Bid notices were mailed out to 60 prospective bidders, and the bidders listed four picked up the packages. At the indicated time and place, one bid received, that being Hunter, Jersey, Peterbilt, Clark, New Jersey. Ken Summers, Acting Director of Public Works, has received the technical requirements and has recommended the bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, that being Hunter, Jersey, Peterbilt, 524 Monmouth Road, Box 729, Clarksburg, New Jersey. The truck bid is for a 2019 Peterbilt 520 at the cost of $269,903. The purchase of this truck was approved in 2017 capital budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 4-6, authorize award of bid, purchase, and delivery of one metal refuse truck.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Bids were mailed out to 61 prospective bidders from our bidders list, and 6 were picked up packages. On the aforementioned date, 2 bidders received those being Route 24 Auto Mall and Winter Ford of Cherry Hill. Ken Summers, Acting Director of Public Works, has received the technical requirements and has recommended the bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, that being Route 23 Auto Mall, LLC, 1301 Route 23 Butler. The truck bid is for a 2018 Ford F-750 at the cost of $117,627.10 plus a $404,210 extended warranty at the total cost of $121,837.10. The purchases of this truck was approved in the 2017 capital budget ordinance 8-17. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 4-7, authorize award of contract, Public Safety Aegis Software Suite. This resolution authorizes the award of contract in the amount of $149,967 to Tyler Technologies, Troy, Michigan, to provide maintenance and support services for the Aegis Public Safety Software Suite utilized by the Police Department. The software provided to the Police Department is proprietary and not available for purchase through other companies. Resolution 4-8, authorize award of contract through Stafford Township Cooperative, grass seed, etc. This resolution authorizes the award of contract for the purchase and supply of grass seed, fertilizer, limestone, and field supplies through the Stafford Township Cooperative and Cooperative to Reed and Perrin Sales, Inc. the Sherwin-Williams Company, and Site 1 Landscape Supply. Resolution 4-9, authorize amendment to the 2017 Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan. This resolution authorizes an amendment to the Township's 2017 Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending plan as required in accordance with our Affordable Housing Settlement Agreement. The spending plan also must be approved via resolution. The goals outlined in the spending plan are just that, goals. And it is expected the Township will work on those goals over the next 8 years when our plan will be revisited again. Also, on tonight's agenda are components of the settlement agreement that are required to be approved by March 17th. All of these components will be reviewed by the Planning Board at their next meeting. Resolution 410, authorize amendment to the Housing Rehabilitation Program Manual. This resolution authorizes an amendment to the Housing Rehabilitation Program Manual, which is the policy and procedure manual for the Community Development Block Grant Program, the grants that we had just awarded this evening. This manual has been revised to including owner-occupied affordable housing units, which is also outlined in our spending plan. This allows the work we currently do using Community Development Block Grant funds for housing rehabilitation projects to count towards our affordable housing credits. Resolution 411, authorize the adoption of the Township of Brick Affirmative Marketing Plan. This resolution authorizes the adoption of the Township's Affirmative Marketing Plan. Homes Now administers the Township's affordable housing program, and this plan outlines the work they do to ensure that the program is advertised properly, along with ongoing outreach efforts to be sure that those who qualify for affordable housing have an opportunity to confirm eligibility and request assistance. Resolution 412, authorize execution of shared services with County of Ocean Child Restraint Grant Program 2018. This resolution authorizes the execution of shared services agreement with the Ocean County Sheriff's Office for the fiscal year 18 Child Restraint Program Grant. The Child Restraint Grant Program is run by the Ocean County Sheriff's Office for the purpose of inspecting and installing child restraints in vehicles. In this grant, the Brick Police Department can designate officers to become certified child passenger safety technicians to conduct child safety or child restraint inspections. The county offers the certification training and will offset a portion of the salary of those officers who complete the training. Resolution 413, authorize appointment to the Housing Authority. This resolution authorizes the appointment of Samantha Anoche, Bay Boulevard, to the Brick Township Housing Authority for a 5-year term effective March 15th, 2018 through March 14th, 2023. Resolution 414, oppose beekeeping resolutions. Council Vice President Crate.
Thank you. Fun fact, in case you didn't know, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat is a result of pollinators like honeybees. And crops like blueberries and cherries are 90% dependent on pollination. Honeybees are so important to farmers that they often have the beehives transported in and then placed on their farm to provide pollination for crops. So with that in mind, this resolution opposes the New Jersey Department of Agriculture's new beekeeping regulations that would severely restrict beekeeping in the state, while also putting the burden of managing and enforcing these regulations on municipalities. New Jersey is the home of many gardeners who, just like commercial farmers, depend upon insect pollination of home gardens.
Thank you very much. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Resolution 415, authorize special events permit, engagement party. This resolution approves a special events permit for an engagement party at the Brennan Boat Company, Route 70, from 7 to 11, Saturday, March 24th. Resolution 416, bond releases and reductions. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. 416A is a performance bond release for Mark Frisori for 256 Manaloking Road in the amount of $276,000 and a cash performance bond in the amount of $30,666.
Thank you very much. 417, tax collector, Mrs. Bergen.
17A, 100% DAV refund and cancel taxes for Block 382.39, Lot 2. 17B, tax overpayments for the year 2008. 17C is tax overpayments for the year 2009. 17D, tax overpayments for the year 2010. And 17E, tax overpayments for the year 2018. 17F is canceling credit balances for the years 2005, 6, and 7. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the end of the consent agenda. Any questions or comments from the council? Close, and may I call for a motion?
Motion. Second.
Oh my goodness. Motion by Vice President Crate, second by.
Oh, I didn't say anything. It was
You didn't
actually,
say-
no, it
Oh,
was.
it was Councilwoman Zapsik?
Councilwoman
Zapsik. Yeah.
Motion by Councilwoman Zapsik, second by Councilman Halloran. Roll call. Close public roll call, right? Or no, public. I'm sorry. Anybody have questions from the public? Ms. Call.
Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. And I'm going to start by saying what I've said many times before. You really don't give us enough information, or as much as you should. The 2017 Affordable Housing Trust Fund spending. How can I get complete details on that?
I can provide you with a copy of the spending plan.
Would you email it to me? I believe you know what my email is.
I have it. Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Let me see. I'd like more well, first on 413, the appointment to the Housing Authority. Is this something like that person we had that was a secretary and embezzled money, I believe it was, and had done it before? You're looking very quizzical. This was in the news.
The Housing Authority is run by a board of commissioners that are appointed by the Township Council. It's an independently run authority. The commissioners had no involvement. I can tell you with certainty what you're discussing, and certainly this person who's being appointed tonight is a new commissioner, has not served on the Housing Authority before now, starting on March 15th.
Does she have the type of responsibility or access to the funds that the other person had?
These are commissioners. The commissioners oversee. The person you're talking about was the executive director. She was an employee of the Housing Authority. Is run by a board of commissioners. They're not employees. They have oversight authority.
This appointment is not the same.
Correct.
As what that person was.
That is correct.
And the township appoints the person. Hope you did proper vetting on, even though it's not the same level and access. Hope you vetted it much better than that person was. The beekeeper, you're opposing it. Why?
We're opposing the restrictions that are being, we're not
What are the
opposing beekeeping.
restrictions that you're opposing and why? We're supposed to be able to know exactly how you came to your decision. That's what the Open Meetings Act says.
Okay.
That we are entitled to know what went into your decision process, what made you make a decision one way or another, and what was it about the regulations that you didn't like?
Well, I would like to think that the making the town have the burden of managing whatever the regulations are would be an issue, okay? And the cost of that.
Whatever the
to the
regulations are.
And the cost to the taxpayers for having to do that, yes.
I can see I'm not going to get the kind of information we're
Probably
entitled
not.
to, so.
Probably not.
No, apparently not, because you don't seem to know it. And there is something else that I'm going to wait till you get to the ordinances on first reading before, or I'll bring it up in public.
Anybody else? Mr. Finelli. You can't yell at me. I recognized everybody that was in the audience. Terrific. Even though I introduced somebody to them to make sure they got recognized, thank you for doing that. Obviously, when we were all up here, and some people had concerns, I guess they didn't know that the mayor didn't get the word it was a dressed-down meeting today, because he was the only one who was dressed up. You weren't paying attention. No, forget it. A little bit of my humor. As far as the B thing, all right? Okay? I don't think you mentioned in your presentation that there also has been a major die-off of bees over the last several...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right?
Right.
I don't know if everybody knows that, and nobody knows the reason why, but we're already hurting in the bee department. I guess you don't know what the regulations are.
I don't have them in front of me
Okay.
now.
My comment would be, if this thing gets passed through, right, and the municipality actually has to do what they do, and unless the regulations have to do with fixing the problem why all the bees are dying, if somebody feels it's really a waste of time, just don't do it. That's all. Just don't do it.
Right.
That's a simple thing. They come up with some silly regulations, you don't have the money to do it, what are they gonna do? Don't do it. Okay?
We're gonna blame you, Mr. Finley. Yes, there's one more person.
Oh, Oh, uh, Mr. Zingas.
Good evening, everybody. I happen to be a beekeeper. I'm a member of the New Jersey Beekeepers Association as well as the Central Jersey Beekeepers Association. I took courses at Rutgers, beginners and advanced, and I will say there is a decline in the bee population, and I applaud the council for joining approximately 30 other municipalities as well as the beekeeper associations. We heard a little bit tonight about the regulations, and they are technical. I provided a 2-page scientific response to those regulations, and I can say with certainty that the Department of Agriculture has moved on this matter without peer review and direct consultation with various beekeeper associations. That's disturbing, and they didn't even have available their peer review or scientific publications for my review as well as other associations. One perfect example, this is an onerous ordinance or a state statute that would prohibit anybody from keeping bees on their property unless they have a quarter of an acre of land. And I don't think I can count very many quarter of an acre properties in Brick Township. Bees are very docile, they don't bother anybody. They serve as a significant benefit to the community. My neighbors know I have bees, their gardens are doing wonderful. It's also a great educational opportunity. You know, we built Monarch Mountains for pollinators specifically, and if anybody has an opportunity to go over to our summer fair over there, somebody has some candy buns or something, but within minutes there's a lot of honeybees on there. But they are beneficial insects, they are in a decline, they need support, and from my position, I applaud the council, and I'm asking the Department of Agriculture to toll the regulations and revisit and interact with peer review and get scientists involved. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Zingas. Anybody else? Mr. Scott?
Good evening. George Scott, Queen Anne Road. 410, is that the rehabilitation program that Mr. Fowler takes care of?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'd just like to comment on that real quick. I've looked at this in the past, and the work that Mr. Fowler puts into this is a tremendous amount of work. He does a great job at it. It certainly does help a lot of people. In reading what you people got last Friday, a lot of people here don't know, and for enlightening the public, just as I was enlightened by reading this, the program goals and objectives, and this is what it specifically says. The goal of the Brick Township Housing Rehabilitation Program is to allow for safe and continued occupancy of owner-occupied and rental dwellings by eligible households. For many households, especially seniors, paying for food, utilities, and medical expenses leaves little or no funds for routine maintenance of homes, which leads to the failure of major building systems. The objective provides an avenue for moderate and substantial housing rehabilitation for very low, and moderate income homeowners and renters who could not otherwise afford it. A lot of people don't know, but the grants that are allowed in here are $10,000 up to $25,000, but when I read this, if there are certain situations where they've really let these houses go, where it gets up to $50,000, I assume Michael, reading this, forwards it to the county where they have a program that will enable these people to recoup up to $50,000. So a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that myself. Again, I want to applaud him. He does a really good job on this program. And for those that really need help, they should look into doing this. That's 410. 49, I do have questions on that. So on your spending plan, and looking at, if you can tell me on page 3 what the fee really means. What is 1% of either the equalized assessed value of each unit, or the warranty document of a sale, or the appraised value of the document utilized for construction? Page 4, the chart. Approved development. You have the numbers for 15 and 16. We're in 18. What happened to 17? If you know that. Page 5 mentions leverage for the CDBG funds to allow for rehabilitation of rental units. It continues that theme throughout. What does leverage against those funds mean? If you could tell me, I'd like to know. Page 6. Under inclusionary zoning, the mixed-use site will generate an affordability requirement of 9 units that are planned at this time to be provided at an off-site location at an existing apartment complex. Where? It doesn't say in here where. And also, the remaining site is a developed property known as Kennedy Mall. Where exactly is Kennedy Mall? Every mall has a little name. Not sure where this one is.
It's actually, I think it's called Riverwalk now. It's where the Outback is.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
It used to be Kennedy Mall back in the day.
behind Towns.
I think it's Riverwalk. Right?
So are we considering, Mayor, then, that they're going to put affordable housing rental units in there?
No, what happened is, years ago, I guess the state forced the town, this is before I'm mayor, I guess the mayor at the time and the town council wanted to put a lot of impervious coverage out on Route 70. So they
Okay.
said, yeah, you can do that, but in exchange, we want to have 4 big sites in your town where you can put affordable housing. So they named the Kennedy Mall as one, behind the post office as one. There's a triangle piece between Jack Martin and 88 as one, and then the Food Town site as one. And that's what the town agreed to 2007-ish.
Because that's, I guess, still on the book then.
Yeah, well, those 4 sites are still on the book. The only one that they built was the one behind the post office.
Okay.
And then Food Town, we, by way of redevelopers agreement, we banned all residential, but it's still on the books. But we banned residential.
Okay. Page 8. I'm a little confused there, because on page 8, it says that there are 4 units set aside to provide housing to clients who would not otherwise qualify for the program to receive rental assistance and to meet program requirements. So we're giving out $68,400 a year, according to this, to people who don't qualify. Then you go to the next page on 9, and it says the township spends $68,400, the exact same number, annually from its trust fund to provide rental assistance to qualifying residents. So are we giving it to people who qualify, or are we giving it to people who don't qualify? It says one thing on one page and one thing on another. If you can enlighten that, I'd like to know. And the other 2 were math problems. I'll straighten out with the business administrator later. So can you answer the questions that I've addressed?
Or do you want me just to meet with them? I was just going to meet with them. Yeah, they're detailed questions, Mr. Scott, since you're coming in anyway. I think we'll go over all of them when you come in.
Okay, but the council has had these a lot longer. I only got this yesterday, as you know. They've had it since Friday, but they're going to vote on this. So
Right, these are, what they're voting on are amendments to the plan that talked about what Heather incorporated, which was the need for us to update our CDBG manual so that we can incorporate including units in there that would count towards that. So the changes that they're making may not even be in the areas that you're asking questions about. They may have predated the amendment itself. It's a small part of what you're asking. So those are the parts that they're mostly have been focused on because they're changes to an existing plan, which is why it's a little bit easier for me to backtrack and layer through some of the questions offline.
Okay, but the questions that are still part of this whole entire spending plan, correct?
Right, but I don't think any of them are uncomfortable on voting on it tonight and having me answer your questions offline.
That's
I don't
fine.
want to speak for them, but, because we've gone over the substantive changes significantly, and you're looking at it globally, but they're.
What about the answer just on page 8 and 9? Are we paying $64,800 a year to people who do qualify, or are we giving that money to people who don't qualify? It's very misleading here. So what's the answer to that?
My answer without even looking at the spending plan is that we probably have a match to any amount of funds that we submit to people that are not qualified by giving that same amount to people that are qualified. That would be my gut answer to that question.
Okay. But you don't know for sure right now? Okay, I'll wait to get that answer then. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, close public. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have bill resolution, computer 2018.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Computer bill resolution in the amount of $8,951,678.92.
Okay. Open to council. Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fosman, second by Councilman Halloran. Open to public. Seeing none, close public. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Abstain on New Jersey press media, and yes to the rest.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Abstain Meridian Occupational Health, yes to the rest.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Abstain CME Associates, yes to the rest.
Thank you.
Next is bill resolution, manual 2018.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Manual bill resolution in the amount of $1,648,632.34.
Okay, open to council. Seeing none, may I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fosman, second by Councilman Halloran. Public. Any questions? Seeing none, close public. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Abstain CME Associates, yes to the rest.
Thank you.
Next up, we have ordinance on first reading. There is no public hearing on the first reading. 5.1, amend Chapter 245, Land Use, Temporary Sleeping Quarters.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Section 245-296M1D of the Code of the Township of Brick.
Thank you. This ordinance will extend permission for places of assemblies to provide temporary encampment accessory use so that volunteers coming in from out of state to assist with rebuilding efforts can be housed in local churches. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Halloran, second by Councilwoman Zapsik. Open to council. Any questions? Closed to council. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. Next, we have 5.2. It's also an ordinance on first reading, and again, there is no public hearing. Amend Chapter 245, Affordable Housing.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, repealing and replacing Chapter 245, Part 2, Article 5, Affordable Housing to the Code of the Township of Brick to address the requirements of the New Jersey Superior Court.
Thank you. The Township has an approved settlement agreement in place that requires us to address certain items in that agreement via ordinance. We started the process by attempting to modify our existing affordable housing ordinance, but found the modifications to be so significant that we are instead opting to start fresh. The Township was provided with a model ordinance by the Special Master, which has been reviewed, modified as necessary, and approved by our affordable housing attorney, affordable housing planner, and Township planner. It is our intent to repeal the existing ordinance and replace. According to the settlement agreement, we need to have the ordinance and other documents in place by March 17th, which is the deadline to submit these documents to the court master. The ordinance has nothing to do with the number of affordable housing units. It sets guidelines for how we regulate standards, the collection of affordable housing fees, and the administration of affordable housing fees. The old ordinance has not been updated since 1991, and we were overdue for becoming compliant with state guidelines for affordability criteria. The draft ordinance also increases the number of years a unit remains affordable from 20 to 30 years. We also included language regarding the scattered site program and outlines our strategies to continue to implement a diverse and vibrant affordable housing program through the Scattered Site Initiative, which identifies existing homes in neighborhoods across Brick Township. In terms of fees, in accordance with the state statute, we are increasing the affordable housing fees on commercial properties from 2 to 2.5%. The residential affordable housing fee will stay at 1%. We also refined the list of what's allowable under the criteria to be charged an affordable housing fee and what's exempt. For example, in this ordinance, we are exempting sheds, pools, and decks. Basically, any project that's expanding the living space and stays in as allowable, and everything else is out. We are not expecting to see a reduction in affordable housing revenue as a result of the new exemptions because the commercial is increasing. Also, in this draft ordinance, nonprofits are exempt. Previously, nonprofits were required to come before council to request an exemption. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Councilman Mumolo, second by Councilman Halloran. Open to council. Seeing nothing, close council, roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Craig.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. Resolution 6. We have an ordinance on second reading. Amend Chapter 2-118 Administrative Code Police Staffing Limits.
An ordinance of the Township of Brick, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, amending Section 2-118 of the Township Code to establish staffing limits for the police department.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. This is a staffing limit. It's not a hiring. So the current ordinance regulating police staffing allows for 3 captains, 7 lieutenants, and 19 sergeants. The police chief has requested the council consider amending the ordinance to increase the police staffing levels to 4 captains, up from 3, 9 lieutenants, up from 7, and 23 sergeants, up from 19. Again, it's not hiring. It's actually just setting the staffing limits. At this time, the chief will be requesting 2 additional sergeants and nothing more. The additional sergeants are needed to facilitate the new schedule changes that has saved the township the number of dollars as far as savings in its first year. So right now, as we sit here, there's 19 sergeants that have the stripes on their shoulder. So I'm trying to do it in the easiest way. But there's actually 21 people being paid as sergeants because they're getting what's called differential pay because their job descriptions is sergeant so they qualify for sergeant's pay. So right now we're limited at the 19 sergeants, so we couldn't promote those two people to have those stripes on their shoulder in addition to the pay and to have that title on a permanent basis. And that's why the staffing limits are being increased. Now, they are asking for more in each category, but that's so we don't get this situation down the road, years from now, whenever the need is there for additional captains or lieutenants or sergeants. The police department has evolved significantly in the past few years under the guidance of Chief Riccio. We are very proactive in the identification of programs and expanding current programs that have been expanded over time, and they are necessary and they are impactful. And they include a number of things. The Barrier Island being its own district. So district, for those of you from up north of New York, it's like a precinct, basically. So the Barrier Island is now its own district. Maple Leaf is its own district. The complete overhaul of community policing, which includes the bike patrol, the boat patrol, launching a comprehensive neighborhood watch program, starting the Lead and Seed, expanding the DARE program, and starting the Not Even Once school-based program. A new supervisor is needed in internal affairs because of the body camera mandate, and there is a need to replenish the men and women on the special enforcement team and the drug unit that were reassigned. And that's to make sure that they were reassigned to make sure the new programs and initiatives would work properly. We didn't want to roll out a bike patrol and have one person do it and they're not there enough. You want to have a full-on effort. If you're going to go for something, you want to do it, and you want to do it the right way. Under the chief's direction, the police department has jumped in with both feet to get these new programs and initiatives off the ground and successful. Community policing takes manpower, and amending the ordinance helps them serve our town that much better. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Fosman, second by Vice President Crate. Open to public for comments, questions. Seeing and public. Yes, ma'am, in the black.
Hi, thank you. I just want to commend the police department. My name is Lauren Kamenitsky, and I run the Thrive program in Maple Leaf Park on Wednesday nights. So the kids that come to our program have a lack of role models in their life, and they're coming from difficult situations. And the police presence, the officers that come to our program, make a tremendous impact on our kids. We do a lot within this program where we have the kids opening up and really sharing their feelings and sharing their challenges. And the bonds that are created between the officers that come and the children are amazing. The kids, you know, somebody mentioned earlier the fear that children have of police. That fear is eliminated by their presence. That fear goes away because these officers are coming in, opening up their hearts, sharing their personal experiences, stories, why they've become police officers, the challenges that they face as a human being and a police officer. The things that are being shared are priceless for these kids, and absolutely providing positive role models that these kids desperately need. In addition to just the bonding and the community engagement that happens from this, it's also an opportunity for the kids to come forward, and they've shared information with officers that they need to, you know, we tell the kids, if you see something, you have to say something. Well, having a relationship with our police officers gives them that comfort and that feeling of safety to be able to open up about what they see, things that they're noticing in their neighborhood, things that they're seeing in school. It gives a real continuity between school and home because they care about what they're seeing in school. We have kids in our program that have made presentations thanking the officers that are in the schools and that are coming to the program on Wednesdays. So to me, this is an absolute must. I think it needs to be increased as much as possible in terms of having our officers visible, having them in the community, because I think that we're all battling as adults a time when kids need our support and our positive role model behavior. They need to learn how to communicate. They need to learn how to open up and share and really be involved in the community in a positive way. So as a person who works with the Maple Leaf community, it's invaluable. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
we'll go this side real quick. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Nina Bertino. I'm the Student Assistance Coordinator at Brick Memorial High School. First, I just want to say thank you to the Chief and to Mr. Philippone for working so hard at making the staff and the students feel safe in the building and informing us of everything that you're doing to ensure that. My role in the building is I deal with the majority of the students that suffer with substance abuse and mental health issues. We have a lot of programs. I feel like we're doing so much with the Lead and Seed and DART. Brick Municipal Alliance has been great. We started a new program in September called, sorry. Sorry.
Take your time.
The program's called #NotEvenOnce. This program has been awesome for our senior class. It encompasses having 3 police officers, our SRO, Detective McCarthy, someone that's in recovery, and then myself in the 3rd day. What's really cool is that the kids are so taken back by the fact that there's 3 officers and the SRO coming into their health class. Our health classes are maybe somewhere from 15 to 30 kids in a classroom. And when the officers come in, the kids are getting to see them in a different light. They're getting to see the SRO, getting to know them better. They're getting educated on what's going on with the heroin epidemic in our county, in our state. They are relating to them. You know, we had 3 officers, 1 was a female, 2 males. They were great. The kids were able to look at them and see different parts of who they were. They shared a little bit about their lives, but the education that they gave them is a different kind of education. The relationships that they built, where they said, call me if you need anything. If you see me out, don't hesitate to come up, ask questions. The last day of the program actually has a graduate of our school come in who is in recovery. And the officers work really close with her. I go in on the last day, and the kids get to kind of talk a little bit more freely, maybe about things that they were a little nervous about saying in front of the police officers. And they're really cute, some of the questions that they have. But getting to hear the kids that I work with going through the program and then them coming into my office and being so moved by it has been a significant change, just in their attitudes and what they want to do and how they're looking at drug use and how they're looking at the heroin, this major issue that we're fighting. On top of that, our SRO, our classes are 80 minutes. So 1 block is 80 minutes. Sometimes we'll do 3 classes in 1 day, which means Detective McCarthy is in the classroom. And that's great, but he is also 1 of 2 SROs in our district, and we have 10 buildings, and they have to respond to anything that happens in those other buildings as well. So at times he gets pulled out, and you know, it's okay because there's still 3 people, but you know, with any kind of shortage of guys and manpower of being in our building and creating a presence, I think would be really upsetting. You know, especially because we're all fighting for the same thing. You know, we want to keep our kids healthy, safe, and we want to educate them, and we want to prevent, you know, kids graduating and going on and facing these struggles that many, many people are facing with heroin and addiction. So again, I applaud the department. I think it's great. I've been in the school district, this is my 7th year, and the amount of change. When I first came in, a lot of these programs weren't even in, where there was no Lead and Seed. There was no #NotEvenOnce. There wasn't the Maple Leaf Project. So seeing all of these things come in, I really think is going to bring a great change to our community. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your work.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Over on the right.
Mr. Finelli? Okay. Ma'am in purple jacket?
Hi, I'm Carol Steiter. I've been a resident of Brick for 35 years now, and I live in the Herbertsville section. I'm also a member of BMAC, vice chair of that community, and I am working with the Thrive program at Maple Leaf. We've had the officers there. They are absolutely fantastic. I also want to say, in addition to what Lauren said before, I live there in the community, and I see the police officers working with the kids all the time. You go through the development, and they're there, and that's what we need. They trust the officers, and that is so important today. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, next. Mr. Finelli?
As Paul Harvey would say, now for page 2. Before I ask my questions, can I ask if the chief and our acting superintendent are going to be here for the public comment section? because I have some questions on the presentation. Thank you. Oh, thank you. My first question is, who determines the number of sergeants there should be in the township? Because I was told that it's part of the union contract or the PBA contract. Is that true or not true?
No.
Not true.
Mayor has the authority.
The mayor has the authority. The unions have nothing to do with it.
It's not in the union contract, Mr. Chairman, to answer your question.
Thank you. As I understand it, right now, we're paying 2 officers to do sergeant's work, and we're actually paying the sergeant's salary. So doesn't that kind of make this redundant, if you can do that? The only thing you're approving is the stripes on their sleeves?
No, this ordinance is required by law to set the number of superior officers allowed in the police department. What you're talking about is a separate requirement that whenever officers does something that's called out-of-title work, they're entitled to out-of-title pay. So an officer, on occasion, will do work up a rank. They're entitled to the pay for that.
When you
rank.
say on occasion, we have 2 people right now doing the work as a sergeant and getting paid as a sergeant.
That's correct.
All right? So in all practical purposes, they are sergeants. They're just not being called sergeant, or they just don't have the stripe on them, but that's
Exactly,
being done.
that's why we need to do the ordinance. Yep.
The ordinance is coming after the fact. That's my question.
No.
It's already going on.
They're not.
They don't have the stripes and they're not called sergeant, but they are getting higher rate pay. I said differential earlier, it's a different word, higher rate pay.
Okay.
Because they're doing job duties that fulfill of the sergeant position.
Okay. I think you answered my question. Let me give you a little bit of history. A while ago, we increased the number of police we had. Then we increased the number of special police that we had so we could put more officers on the street and they would be doing the booking. Then we changed the hours that was going to cut down the overtime and make everybody happy. At that time, we were not informed that doing that was going to require another sergeant to be there. So, I mean, that should have been part of the deal because it looked like we won't all save money, but in fact, we're going to have to pay somebody more money to oversee that. So I think that communication piece was missing. You talked about some of the things that were going on. There is no increase in the geography of Brick. The township is the same as it's always been. You mentioned that you made the Barrier Island its own district. You didn't say why. Why did that become its own district that now we have to have more sergeants or policing or something like that? We actually have less people on the Barrier Island than we had 5 years ago. We keep mentioning that we're millions of dollars down because of all the houses we lost. So why did that become a district that requires more policing?
It's not necessarily the Barrier Island, with the exception of, obviously, there was a number of Camp Osborne. When you take that number, of course, that seems like a lot of houses out there. But because it's so far away from the mainland as far as just safety patrol. I mean, Councilman Halloran lives out there, but the speeding that happens on Route 35, the calls for service, when somebody's not there, you're saying there's not a lot of residents. So the likelihood, if you're a bad guy, so to speak, I think you would rather go to a house that maybe somebody's not living at in order to break in, all those types of things. You want to have somebody right there that can respond to anything, as opposed to coming all the way over from Adamston Road at the VFW, going all the way over to Manilokin Bridge, all the way through Manilokin to try to get there.
That's the way we've always done it, right? It's been that way for years. It's been that way since I lived here.
We also didn't have armed officers in every school like everybody's calling for and everything else.
I
Times are changing.
understand that part of it. I don't understand the Barrier Island. I haven't seen anything that said crime is going up in the Barrier Island or anything else is going in the Barrier Island. But we've now made a change in the police department that requires more staffing over there to make it a district. And maybe the area where you have the high crime rate with the drugs I can understand, but that I don't understand.
I go out to yearly meetings at each of the associations, and you hear about all the speeding down Route 35. You hear about various problems that the residents have out there. I mean, these are people too. They're taxpayers too. They deserve to have the protection there.
Has there been an increase in the number of people living in Brick?
I don't believe so, but the census isn't done yet. We'll have to wait for that to come out to be official.
All right, my last comment I mentioned at the last meeting. You're trying to do hiring to fill out the next 5 or 10 years, or just put this ordinance in place water seeks its own level. There's no reason in all of my mind why you should try to predict this council, this administration should try to predict what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years from now. The people who are sitting up there 5 or 10 years from now, or from whenever that need arises, can have a referendum and say you can have 1 more lieutenant, you can have 2 more lieutenants, you can have another captain. There's no reason for this group to do that right now. You're not going to be here. You don't know what the needs are. You don't know what the size of the town is. You don't know any of those things, yet you want to pass this referendum that says you can hire these many more people. And you know, it might sound small, right? But when you're increasing captains from 3 to 4, that's 25%. You're adding 2 more lieutenants. You're adding more sergeants. That's a big increase. I don't know. Can somebody tell me why you want to do that?
I'll just make a comment. Life has changed. We didn't have the programs that we have today 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The police department is facing far different situations today with opioids, crime, and everything. The amount of programs that they are required to put into practice in operation today requires different manpower requirements. So I think that alone would render us in need of potential increases in our force in the next few years. So, but why would we not want to be prepared? Anybody, any good organization has to look to the future. They make 5-year plans, 10-year plans. You know that. You came from corporate.
Yes.
So, and I know that. So we didn't wait till the situation happened. We went at it in a 5-year plan. And then every year you go out another 5 years and you change your plan. That's what they're doing.
Okay. You don't have to do that here because you can do it strictly by a referendum. You can do exactly what you did tonight. Anytime you want to do it.
And if a situation happens, you'd have to be prepared to make a move right then and there.
Yeah.
You can't wait.
And you can do it.
And we
You
are.
can do it.
You're making a
Thank you, Mr.
weak point.
Finelli.
You meet every 2 weeks. You can
Thank
have
you,
a
Mr.
referendum.
Finelli.
I've got-
Mr.
Your
Your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, I'll be back.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jerry DeSico. I'm one of the founders of the Windcrest Court and Yellow Brick Block Associations. I'm here to give our full endorsement and support of this ordinance to increase the staffing limits of the police department. As most of us know, police officers are the pillars of the community. Brick Township is fortunate enough to have an exceptional police force. They're young, enthusiastic, and they serve the residents well. We're also very fortunate to have a true professional as our police chief. He's a product of the mean streets of Hudson County. He has turned this department around in a positive manner. He's respected by the force. He's accessible to the taxpayers. It's a winning formula. And Brick Township is one of the few towns that is fully accredited. That says something. Let me specifically tell you exactly the positive developments that occurred in our neighborhood, especially around the area of Maple Leaf. And we all know the previous administration was indifferent to Maple Leaf. The person that was sitting in your chair several years ago, an arrogant, pompous little man that used to discredit people and discourage people from coming up here and criticizing and talking about things. Thank God they're gone. Shortly after the chief came in, maybe a couple of months, the business administrator, we reached out to her. She organized a community meeting at the firehouse on Herbertsville Road. She knew the seriousness of the problem over there. At that time, we had about 50 or 60 people. There was several council people there, chief, the deputy chief, code enforcement, and they had a very clear and concise plan on how to tackle the issues in and around Maple Leaf. It was a combination that was discussed here earlier about community policing, about proactive policing, about instituting these after-school programs that Councilwoman Andrea started and that these wonderful people over here are doing on a Wednesday night. It's a good formula, it's a successful formula, and it's showing positive results over there. Unfortunately, you guys were handed a leaky bag of crap from the previous administration. You've done a great job in picking that up and discarding it. Let me talk about the drug unit. These guys, they don't want to get any credit, but I'm going to give them credit. The drug arrest, the seizure of cash and assets under the forfeiture laws are going through the roof. And they got a good sergeant that's leading that team. And the set team that's around this town, it's not only in Maple Leaf, it's all over the town. They're showing positive results. But a good police force is the backbone of that police force is the first responders, the men and women in uniform, the ones that run toward danger while everybody is running away from danger. The calls for services, the rapid response that they do, and I've seen it with my own eyes. And of course, we can't forget the Detective Bureau, who is solving the cases, and they are filing charges against the enemies of society. This increased staffing levels is needed. The new norm with these horrific school shootings, you cannot put a price tag on that, whether there's going to be promotions in the future or not. Let's do it. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Another thing that people forget when police officers are studying for the test, let me talk about that for a second. They're doing it at their own expense, sometimes at a year or 2 years ahead of time. So the township is getting an educated force with zero cost to the taxpayers. It's like going to college and taking 5 classes. You got 2C, you got case law, you got Title 39, Attorney General guidelines, at no cost to the taxpayers again. There is a little misconception, I hear, about increased costs when you increase staffing. Let me see if I could put a little damper on that, if I may. Let me go back to Chapter 78. We all know that that was the death blow for police officers and firefighters in this state. 10% of their pension, one of the highest in the country. 35% of health care cost, one of the highest in the country, was shoved down their throats. That 35% goes right back into the taxpayers. And all while the judges scam their way out of doing that one. How do you like that? 3%. Okay. We all heard about the work schedule today, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, guess what? Each police officer in this town has to give back 13 days of their own time. Let's see them do that in corporate world. And the overtime, they don't get the court overtime anymore. That's real sacrifice. And these are things that, you know, newspapers like the Asbury Park Press and the Failing Star-Ledger, they won't cover that stuff. But they rather cover and exploit the 0.5% of police officers that may fall off the wagon. Not too bad when you got 38,000 law enforcement officers in this state. So let me finish, if I may, wrap this up. For those critics that may exist out there, or maybe those that are just a little misinformed, how about you take a nice little trip down to Washington, D.C. The police memorial, there's over 21,000 names on that police memorial. These officers, men and women, in the history of the United States gave their lives for the ultimate sacrifice. And in that wall and on that memorial, there's a quote that I'll never forget. And it goes like this: "It's not how these officers died that made them heroes. It's how they lived." Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Call.
Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard, and basically I'm here in reference to the statements that Mr. Finelli, or one of the statements Mr. Finelli made. In fact, I was going in public comments to ask, do we have a 5-year plan? Not for the police, but for this whole town, because that is how they do it in the corporate world. And I wonder whether we do. I'm not going to say whether the 5-year plan in regard to this police staffing is the best thing or the worst thing or what have you. The one thing I came up that, despite the fact that Mr. Halloran lives on the Barrier Island, it makes sense to have it, as you are referring to it, a precinct. You cannot, in this day and age, have the police on the mainland here and have to get to a location on the barrier island, and especially if it is summertime when you can't get over the bridge even now that it's been redone. I believe the name was Willie Sutton, who used to rob banks, and he was asked, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. The barrier island is where the money is. We've been having, well, I don't think we did this year, but for several years we were having meetings at the Normandy Beach Association. And when we had the last tax re-eval, I met a young woman who was a year-round resident there. I think she was a teacher. She would bring the police that was stationed there during the summer. Well, I think they had somebody there in the hut in the winter. And she would bring them desserts or something, coffee or what have you, because she was so happy to have a presence. And she was a very attractive young lady. And she was living virtually alone. And I'm not sure if she's the same person that told me, or was another very young lady, attractive, who said she had to rent her place out because the tax increase was above what she could afford to pay. And that's something that for many years, I think his first name was Brett Schundler, ran for governor, and his attitude was that during the time between when you buy your home and when you sell it, your taxes should never raise. That when you sell it, the next person who pays a higher price for the house should pay the higher taxes. And he talked about the story of an 80-year-old woman who had gone into a house in this shore area when she got married, which was over 40 years ago, raised her children, and then her taxes were increased to the point that when she was an old lady, and at 80, she was an old lady. I can say that because I call myself an old lady, and I'm younger than 80. And she had to pay a tax that was unaffordable for her. She lived and raised her children in the time that women didn't have an outside job. Women didn't have pensions. Women didn't get Social Security on their own merit, which really was a welfare program, by the way. Read the original act. And all she got was a piece of whatever her husband had coming to him for Social Security. Couldn't do it. And he was right. She might have paid $6,000 for that house that now was worth over $300,000. But he says it's not worth $300,000 to her until she sells it. And then the next person can pay. So I do support. I do have reservations what's going to happen. I agree with water seeking it. And I kind of see a three-card Monte, and I'm going to watch for how soon it is. But the two sergeants, I understand that technically they would be what we would be calling getting the pay for the job they're doing, but it would only be a temporary. What you're doing is you're giving them the raise to the higher level, and that will go on forever. And as we add more people, their pensions and everything that get paid to them will go on too forever. But the two gentlemen are doing the work of sergeant and have been, and they should continue to get the pay and be called sergeants.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Roberta Cartwright, Burnt Park Road. Mayor, Council President, and fellow council members. Our police staff chief. My son has participated in the DARE program in elementary school, and last summer participated in the BRIC Police Youth Camp. While in the camp, he made a decision he wanted to follow a career in law enforcement. He's now participating in the Lead and Seed program and will continue on to Junior Explorers when he reaches high school. He may also go into the state police department. He has an interest in our local government here with the Brick Township in his hometown. Programs like these and many others that the police department provide are extremely beneficial to our children. We need to let our children see that they have options to make a difference for some and give them a chance to follow a different path in life. They help us teach and guide our children, especially with the opiate addiction and other problems that we face these days. When you have young children and you see what their friends and families are going through, and you're not removed from it because of generational gaps, you understand it a little bit more. Personally, in my community, in Eagle Point, we've recently become part of the Neighborhood Watch program. We've learned how, as residents, we can help our police department, provide them additional information, better protect our homes and neighborhoods, and that there is an open line of communication with our officers and various other informative items that we've learned that we had not even known about. Our mayor has been at these meetings. He's answered our questions. Councilwoman Zapek has been there on behalf of BMAC. There's many programs that I even learned about here tonight, sitting here, that I will be going back to and speaking to my community about, especially the parents with the young children who need to take hold of what is going on in our community and surrounding communities and all over. I work for a community, a company that we actually build hospitals for mental health and addiction. It's sad. Our children need to understand this, and programs that our police department have rolled out for them are amazing. You need to sit with these kids. We need to be there for them. We need to show them that we care and there's open lines of communications, and that our police department and our town are there for them, no matter what position they're in or what they're getting paid. They're underpaid for what they do. I come before you as a parent, a member of these programs, a voice from my child, and a resident of Brick Township, and I encourage you to move forward with the staffing limits, the hiring, and all these programs, and please do not stop them. We are here to back you. We are here to help our children and our residents of any age. We're here to help you to understand when you don't understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Finelli.
Not to worry, I'll be less than 5 minutes. Can anybody tell me how much money we collected from the county prosecutor since we've been lending them police officers? Because the gentleman that was up here before me seems to think it was an awful lot of money.
Mr. Finelli, what does this have to do with the police staffing ordinance?
We are lending police officers to the county prosecutor. When we were told that we were lending him that, I was told that we were going to get money back.
Are you talking about the forfeiture funds?
What?
Are you talking about forfeiture funds?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so
When we were lending people to the county prosecutor, we were told that we would get a share of that money coming back from drug bust and everything else.
I see what you're saying.
So
Okay.
the gentleman up here
Right.
made a comment that we got an awful lot of money from that, and I was just wondering how much money we got from that.
Well, I don't know the total, Chief, do you?
Well, could you give me a ballpark?
Yes, at least this year, 70,000, 80,000.
This year being 2018?
No.
2017.
Last year, about 70,000.
That's,
So about half of what we pay for one high tenured officer.
right, but we get more than money.
Okay.
We get the assets of the county and them coming into our town.
You get information, right, Chief?
We get a lot of, there's a lot more benefit than just the money.
Okay.
That you don't
Would
really-
you classify it as a whole lot of money?
I wish I had 70,000 in my bank right now.
Okay. In the grand scheme of things, because, as I mentioned in the past, the single biggest expense in the township is the police department. By my way of thinking, by the way, I was dead set against this program, and I also, my own personal opinion, I think the county prosecutor owes the school district about $500,000 for the mess they made.
Mr. Finelli, let's stay on the ordinance here, please. Thank you.
Okay. One other thing I don't understand. We are hiring highly educated, degreed highly motivated police officers. College degrees requirement now. Yet when we come down to this, we need 1 sergeant for every 5 officers out there. The span of control. Now that's 1 sergeant for every 5 officers. That does not count all the supervisors above the sergeants. You have lieutenants, captains, right on up to the line. We have one sergeant for every 5 people. That span of control, to me, seems extremely low.
Thank you.
Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Roll call.
Councilwoman Zapsik.
Yes.
Councilman Halloran.
Yes.
Vice President Crate.
Yes.
Councilman Mumolo.
Yes.
Councilman Fosman.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes.
Thank you.
Favorite part of the evening? Public comments. Madam Clerk.
Please note that each person addressing the council during any section of the meeting during which public comment is permitted shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to Brick Township Administrative Code, Section 2-33B.
Who would like to go first? Mr. Sluka. How did I know?
I'll read my letter and see if we get more time. But dear Mayor Ducey, Council President Heather Young, all Brick Council members and other representatives, February 20th, I wrote this letter, John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. My letters over the years to the Brick Mayor, the Town Council, the others in the administration of Brick Township, all Brick residents and the residents of Ocean County, and the residents of the complete shore corridor area and their representatives chronicled the abuse of the power of the commissioners of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority. For years, week after week, some residents have reported to the council, the newspapers, and the New Jersey Turnpike Authority themselves studies about the ill effects of the destruction of the environment in the area of the Garden State Parkway bordering Evergreen Woods, Primrose condominiums, and other various areas of Brick Township. The noise created by the expanded Garden State Parkway has become a way of life, and the strain of yelling to neighbors in the backyards of Brick Township as the residents try to hear everyday conversation through the deafening noise has taken its toll on many of Brick's residents. Besides the noise of the speeding vehicles passing by their homes, the health issues have become paramount. The doctor visits with children whose asthma attacks multiply from the toxic air drifting upon them have caused continuous financial burdens of the residents. The polluted air that pregnant women have to breathe add to the increasing incidence of autism of our children. The deadly soot from the diesel trucks that lodge in the lungs of our seniors leads to emphysema and premature deaths and is a direct result of the commissioners of the New Jersey Turnpike's decision to expand the Garden State Parkway without any concern for the health and safety of our residents surrounding that expansion. A 14-foot pollution, safety, and noise wall would bring back some of the normalcy of life to the residents of Brick Township and other areas of Ocean County, but the commissioners of the NJTA are concerned with their financial rewards bestowed upon them by the lobbyists who control most of the construction in the state. After years of denial and lies by the commissioners of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, they modified their stance slightly and did try to placate the residents with a small tree and brush barrier. But this was obviously just a ploy to distract. The residents and administration must know that this was just a token of appeasement and obviously not nearly an honest effort to bring back the normalcy of life to us Brick Township residents. All local officials must help all the residents in the community and speak up, fight back, and set legal course of action to materially alter the deadly impact of the New Jersey Turnpike Authority's judgment to choose profit and empowerment over the health and lives of the shore residents. We as a community of American citizens must stand together against this big government bureaucracy that wants to control our lives. It is time to force a change. It is time for our local leaders to use financial and legal resources to end the abuse and reestablish a healthy environment for all our citizens. We must build the wall now. and restore some serenity and tranquility to our town residents. Because we didn't have an opening session to talk about a question with this, I got a little bit more. Mainly it's for here or to bring back to the school board. They talked about the high school and they bid a little bit about the middle school. Where's the program for the elementary schools?
That's DARE.
Right, but this program, they're talking about adding more police and everything else into the high schools and everything else.
There are new programs that were started.
Okay. Is anyone in the school subject to the visits in the school to the psychologist? Are the parents notified ahead of time and allowed to be at the meetings? And you also mentioned a September through May. I said, geez, I wonder what happened from June, July, August, September, the beginning of it anyhow, because there's a lot going on in our schools. As we know, we have the band that's there all summer long. We have many other things. We have things to do after hours. Is the police really involved in all that stuff, or is it just a school year? Thank you for your time. I yield back 2 seconds.
Thank you. Ms. Call?
Yes, there are several items that I really would like more information for. I asked for a PDF on
The spending plan.
the spending plan. I would also like it for the 2017 Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's the one that you're going to send me, is that correct?
I'm going to send
No.
you the spending plan, but I could also send you the policy and procedure manual, and I can send you the ordinance that was introduced.
And the policy and procedure is the one that's listed as 410? Sorry. Housing Rehabilitation Program Manual, it
Yes.
says.
Okay, no, that's, that is that. That is the policy and procedure manual. Number 11 is the marketing plan, and number 9 is the spending plan.
And because I have
Thank you.
great need for the information on the housing rehabilitation information. And there are several other things I wanted to bring up. The parks. We're going to be doing Bernie Cook finally, because it should have been done in 2010, but that's beside the point, same as the Garden State Parkway changes. I'm not sure how much it's going to cost, and at this point, that part of town really needs a lot of things, including a nice place to sit down at maybe 7 o'clock and have an inexpensive meal. At night, that is. I wouldn't be up at 7 in the morning. So have you thought about looking for businesses to partner and do some of that? Like they have the places on the corners where businesses beautify it. Couldn't they pick up some of these things for us?
We do have a healthy adopt-a-spot program for beautification and township right-of-ways and corners and...
Yes. How about seeing about getting some sponsors to do the same to offset the costs of what you're going to put into Bernie Cook for the children, which I'm all for, but you might be able to offset some of our expenses on it. And also, I hate Comcast. Have I told you lately how much I hate Comcast? Every time I talk to them, and it's been quite frequent, and they always have some different reason that I'm having problems. Number one, for the next meeting, just giving you fair warning, I think it would behoove you to read the last 2 contracts that the township had with Comcast. I remember reading one very early after I started attending these meetings. I'm not sure if the one I read most recently is the one that is the most recent one. I believe that it was written by Jean Cipriani when she was the attorney. I remember reading in possibly the first one and not the second that the municipality gets a I don't know what they call it anymore. They changed names. Public access, closed circuit, I call it, channel, BT20. And if there was a need for additional channels, that would be provided. My community has a channel, and that's a contract that the association had. It's 97. Lo and behold, at the hairstylist, I found they have 97, but it's the Ocean County channel. I think you should coordinate with them and say, the county needs a channel of their own that we can get, that this all should be coordinated with Comcast. And the school should have their own channel. I first came here and everything was, oh no, the township sends their council meetings to the school. And then the school sets the schedule. Now they're saying, no, it's done from here. They should have their own. These meetings should be live broadcast. I've checked other towns. They do that. It's a public meeting. Anything that goes on, I can see it here. People at home should be able to see it. So you should think about that. And, well, two more things. But the Comcast, we need more. Oh, and every time taxes come, the biggest tax is the school. Well, from now on, please, let a council and the mayor go to the school board meeting, do the student of the month at the school board meetings, not the council meeting. That is not a chore of the council. And the last thing is, I did skim over some of the things before leaving to go to a medical appointment today. Somewhere I saw on, I think it had to do with affordable housing, September 40th, 2020. I think somebody better proofread and see if you have a document that you really don't want to sign in that shape.
Next. Ms. Brill.
Stephen Brill, 806 Jenny Court. This article appeared on the May 6, 2016 Rick Shortbeat website about trees to be planted at Evergreen Woods. In the article, Thomas Feeney, the spokesman for the NJTA, states the Leyland cypress trees that were selected are known as fast-growing privacy tree. It can add 3 feet in height and a proportionate amount in width annually in its early years of growth. It has been 2 years and there has been 0 growth. In that same 2 years, the living conditions at Evergreen Woods has continued to deteriorate, as have the property values as a direct result of not 1 but 2 Garden State Parkway projects. Within that article, Mr. Feeney states that Evergreen Woods did not meet the requirements for sound barrier consideration. You should also be aware that the NJTA does not adhere to their own sound barrier policy. This is made clear by their senior engineer, Mr. Grant. He stated that if East Brunswick contributed money to bring the cost per home below the $50,000 cap, then a sound barrier would be considered. In fact, this is what happened. East Brunswick contributed $200,000. The State Department of Transportation specifically prohibits the circumventing of sound barrier policy, but the NJTA picks and chooses winners and losers for those areas its projects impact. NJTA does not base its decisions on facts or competent studies. It purposely leaves gaps in its sound study areas. For example, for the shoulder widening project at Evergreen Woods was not studied even though the paved highway was widened, a center median detention basin that was not in the original plan was added. A new miles-long auxiliary lane replaced multiple exit ramps, and the Interchange 91 project that also directly impacted the same area. According to the NJTA sound barrier policy, new construction is also to be considered in determining whether an area qualifies for a sound barrier. The NJTA chose to consider the shoulder widening and Interchange 91 projects independently in violation of the National Environmental Policy Act rules. If the NJTA had complied with the NEPA regulations, many more homes would have been added to the formula that determines whether the cost per home falls under the unadjusted for inflation cap of $50,000. In conclusion, with the resignation of the executive director of the NJTA and a tentative new head of their board, now is the time to pass two resolutions. One to the NJTA and the other to their Interchange 91 partner, Ocean County, demanding that both reconsider sound mitigation for Evergreen Woods. That Brick Township will partner together with Evergreen Woods Park homeowners and meet with the NJTA and Ocean County representatives. A cost-effective solution is attainable. Thank you.
Good evening, Michelle, 808 Jenny Court. I just wanted to know if, well, we had the meeting with Senator Hulsefield's office beginning of January. Have you heard from them? Did you try to touch base with them to see if anything's happening, or?
We haven't heard anything back from them.
Have you tried to reach out to them again, or?
I figured you were going to follow up.
Oh, okay. I thought you, okay. What we would like is if you could work with the senator's office to try to get a meeting with us and the senator and yourselves, someone in the governor's office, to try to get that going. Because we really want to, ratchet this up, because it's been 5 years, and now I can't even get to sleep at 1 in the morning. It's gotten a lot louder, and it's ridiculous, and we shouldn't have to put up with this, more than 5 years. I think we'll cap it at 5 years. So if you could try to do that for us, just get a representative from this governor's office to meet with. If we get a lot of political, momentum with this, the big three, the council and the senator's office with the governor, and then maybe we can push the Turnpike Authority, because just for the senator to get someone on the Turnpike Authority, they don't give a shit. Excuse my French, but they really don't care. They'll just wait us out. So if you could just do that, we really would appreciate it. Because we've found out how they've screwed up. They've lied, they've misled, and all their little shenanigans to get away with murder when they were at fault. And no matter what we find out, they're just going to keep brushing it under the carpet. So I think this is really the only thing we can do at this point. So we'd appreciate it. Okay? All right, thank you.
Next, Mr. Finelli.
I have my other hat on, by the way, in case you can't tell. First of all, I want to thank the chief for his presentation tonight. You answered a lot of questions that I had based on Dennis's letter. Dennis, thank you for your letter. However, I wouldn't have known it was there unless somebody told me, because I don't check the website every day. All right?
For the parents.
And like somebody else said, I think it's great that whatever plans you're coming up with, you're doing it with the chief, you, and the president of the school board. Not like the beekeepers who just throw things out there. So that's another attaboy in case you missed it. Allow me a minute to read something, and then I'll get into my 1 or 2 questions. As you all know, unless you've been living in a vacuum, every system that was in place to prevent the shooting in Florida failed, all right? The FBI was notified twice and did nothing about it. The shooter had psychiatric care, but somehow that data didn't go into the system that would have prevented him from getting a gun. Police responded to his house, according to what I read, 39 times, but nothing happened. The people who let him move in with a cabinet with guns in it, locked cabinet. If you were letting somebody in your house, would you let them bring in guns? I don't think so. From what I also read, nobody's saying how that person got into the school with a gun. I mean, it's just nobody's saying how did that happen. He got into school with a gun, but nobody's saying how. It appears from what I also read that the first one out the door was a security guard. Terrible. Now my question is, according to the other things I read, the first 4 police responders stayed outside. So my first question is, do we have a protocol as to, we have an active shooter in a school system, how many police officers respond before they go in. And I know you don't, I don't expect one. I mean, that would be ridiculous for one person. You can't watch your back. The first one goes in? Who watches his back? Okay, well, that's beyond what I would expect. All right? Okay, all right. Good answer. I would expect at least two because one watches the back and one watches the front. Okay, my other question is, if we have, how many EMT units do we have in the township? Three at one time? Do we have something in place that if we need a lot more at a quick time, we can get them?
Actually, our EMS are trained with our SWAT team, and they go to specialized schooling to respond with our officers on active shooter. They actually attend our active shooter training. They are equipped with their own bulletproof vests and equipment, so they actually follow our officers into the school.
Yeah, that's your SWAT team. Know what I'm saying?
The EMS follows our officers.
Oh, you EMS people.
Yeah, they get tactical training with us.
Okay. My question is, if you need like 15 EMS units at once, is there something in place to get them from?
We have mutual aid agreements for other towns.
Okay. Good. Two other comments. Everything that you talked about basically is going to cost more money in the school district, right? And a lot of money. And of course, the faster you do these things, the better off everybody's going to be. Somebody's going to have to give up something to have that kind of money to spend in a short period of time. I don't know who it's going to be, but if you want our kids safe, something's got to give, something's got to break, somebody's got to give up something to do all of this stuff. This is not something that I think you want to stretch out over a 5-year plan. Right? So.
Finale, I've been talking with the superintendent about some of those software programs would be funded by us through the forfeiture. We talked about before. What we get from that Ocean County.
Now that aboard. Right? But when you're talking about vestibules, you're talking about new communications, we're talking about better camera systems and everything else, that all's going to cost money. And I know you're doing the budget now, and I know you're trying to do the budget without the state allocation. So there you go. My last comment is a sick one, all right? 20 years ago, what happened? Exactly. 20 years ago, we had our first big school shooting. It's 20 years later now, and the problem is bigger than it's ever been. So what we need to do quickly, we need to do, I don't know, you're gonna piss off some people. They gotta be that way. You're gonna have to make tough decisions and do what you gotta do.
Thank you. Mr. Scott?
And the first comment I'll make is Chief Riccio and Mr. Filippone. Not too many people get an attaboy from Mr. Finelli too often. I will say, one of the speakers came up here before and was talking about the staffing limits, and I've got a comment in conjunction with what he said. When I have questions, I try to go to the source, and I did go to see the police chief, who, again, has an open door policy. You know, call, make an appointment. If you have something on your mind, he addresses the situation. I asked him about his needs. We have 19 sergeants now. The other two, I thought, as Mr. Finelli did, that they got higher pay because of a contractual situation. Whatever the circumstances are, it seemed that the 19 was in reality 21, so he was only asking for 2. During the meeting, when he explained what he needed them for, that was a given. The others, I was a little apprehensive about, honestly still am, on a prudent side, but you do what you have to do. As the chief explained, nobody's getting a promotion immediately, and if and when they do, they got to come to you people anyhow, so you've got to approve it down the line. With all that was said, I think that's enough said about that issue. What I do want to ask about in public tonight, going back to the affordable housing and reading what was given me. I'm not a veteran. However, I do belong to the Brick Elks, and we do try to do a lot for our veterans who definitely need help. And in this affordable housing, we are going to look to construct new construction for 40 units, which from what I read here, it's going to be located near the Department of Veterans Affairs Outpatient Rehabilitation Clinic, an ideal spot over there. The $600,000 that we're going to lay out for 40 units, you know, I'm a math guy. It's only $15,000 a unit, but that gets us credits. My question in reality is, who is actually going to own that? And it says we're doing this project, and we've done a lot of work on it so far. So can you enlighten me as to what that situation is?
Yeah, we're working together with the Housing Authority on the project, because they're, you know, they would be the ones to run it.
Okay, and will actually the Brick Housing Authority be the owners of record and then run it?
Either the Brick Housing Authority or the nonprofit. I'm not sure what their corporate setup is over there, which would be the owner, but one or the other. They have a nonprofit that's part of the Housing Authority, so I don't know technically which one it would be, but yes.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. I think the public should really know that that's a great thing to accomplish, and the fact that it's going to be affordable for the veterans even makes it better. You know, I mean, there are a lot of veterans out there that can't afford market rate housing, so you know, to come in under this program is going to be a win-win for everybody in the town. So I appreciate that being done with that. So thank you.
Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Mrs. Bergen.
No comment from me, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With our contract with Comcast, as far as us getting a second channel, we have to have 20 hours of original, non-repeating programming for 13 consecutive weeks. And then that gets us the second channel. So that's pretty much impossible, unfortunately. I want to congratulate the Brick Memorial High School mock trial team. They won the Mayor's Trophy right here in this courtroom with our own municipal court judge, Judge Grisanti, who presided over the trial. It was an interesting trial. It was on February 20th. Both schools did a great job, but there only can be one winner. And for this year, it's Brick Memorial. Had a very busy time since the last council meeting. So February 15th, I was able to read to Mrs. McFadden's 6th grade class over at Vets Middle School, and really read briefly, and then they started asking me questions. So I kind of put the book down and started asking questions that the kids had, and that was you know, a great experience. Then I was a guest speaker later on that same night over at OCC for government class that they asked me to come speak with. I think there were some students here earlier. I guess they didn't stick around. I think I had to sign their paper, but maybe somebody else is going to sign it. Oh, you signed it already. See, they didn't have to stay to the end. So we also had on the Saturday the Brick's 168th birthday party. It was run by our teen advisory person who runs that program, Colleen Kale. And we had about, I don't know, maybe 50 from preschoolers up through probably about 3rd or 4th grade, and then a number of volunteers from middle school and high school that attended and saw the Pirate Magician and played some games and, you know, had birthday cake. Just a fun little event. That was the idea of a 1st grader 2 years ago who's now in 3rd grade. We had 2 DARE graduations on February 23rd. We had a morning session over at Vets Memorial, and then a afternoon session over at Midstreams Elementary, and some of the, you know, Captain Forrester was there, Mr. Philippone, members of the school board, Councilwoman Crate, and it was, you know, 2 great events. It's great to see those 5th graders. You know, they're very proud to get up and turn around to their parents and families and say the DARE pledge, and I know they get a lot of great information from our DARE officers, and they're all going to make the right choices in life going forward, which makes Brick that much better. PBA dinner on Friday night is an excellent night. There was a number of, in addition to, you know, last council meeting we spoke about the officers who were receiving awards, but a number of civilian awards that were given out. And when you see, you know, kind of the heroic people, not only the police officers, but the, you know, regular civilians. So some of the dispatchers, we had school staff, school nurse, and other staff of the school that were honored that night, as well as some other everyday citizens, so to speak. So that was a great dinner. The Rudy Awards was the next day on the 24th, and on the next day, and Rudy Awards run through our recreation program. So we have basketball through our recreation program, and there's the playoffs and there's the All-Star games and everything. But in the middle of the All-Star games, the coaches actually have nominated somebody who gets a Rudy Award. So the Rudy Award is after the Notre Dame football player Rudy, who gave 110% at all times. So it's not necessarily the team MVP, and that's what makes it special. And a lot of the kids are surprised that they're getting it because they're usually sitting next to maybe who they think is the MVP, and they're probably there for that person, and then all of a sudden their name gets called out instead because they're not expecting it. So it's really, really cool. And the trophies are large trophies that they get, so it's something they'll remember forever. So a really great night. And then later on that night was the Bobby Bucher dance, which is a dance that's held over at St. Dominic's. It's a Bobby Bucher Foundation, another great community group. So we had so many earlier tonight, but this one, they actually raise money to provide for families that have children with cancer that have to travel. So they have to travel maybe to New York or Philadelphia, and they have to stay overnight or buy meals or buy gas to get there and things like that. And that's where all the money goes for that particular dinner. There's a couple hundred people there. The chief attended with me this year, and excellent time. So if anybody's, it's always the same time. It's always that last Friday in February. So next year, mark your calendars. The Infernos play. There's lots of different food, and it's an overall good night. Today is National Pancake Day at IHOP. So you have until 10 o'clock, unless I keep speaking. You have until 10 o'clock to get there, and it's free pancakes, but what you do is you donate, and it goes to the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. So it's a great cause, and they are usually the #1 IHOP in the entire country, and pretty much every IHOP raises money for National Pancake Day, and ours for at least the last 5 years has been the #1 IHOP in the entire United States. Went to the 8th grade assembly today at Vets Middle School, which was really awesome because I had 450 or 500 kids asking me all sorts of questions. So that was probably one of the larger groups that I've spoken in front of, and it was a really good time. We gave them some updates about what's going on around town, and they were real interested in a lot of construction projects and what's going to be there and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. March 10th is Ocean County St. Patrick's Day Parade. I will be marching. Hopefully I'll see everybody out there supporting. It's an Ocean County event. And I want to announce that we received a 2018 NJDOT Municipal Aid Grant. And that is money from the state for us to pave our township roads. And we have the largest award that we've ever gotten since I've been mayor. It's for, and I don't know how much further back. I didn't do research on it, but we usually get about $280,000 or $270,000. This year we got $475,060, and it is for Cedarwood Park East and a number of roads. So it's Glenwood Avenue, Linwood Avenue, which I get a lot of people talking to me about on Facebook Live. So anybody out there in Linwood, I'm sure you're happy by hearing this. Fairfield Avenue, Downey Avenue, Barber Avenue, Harvey Avenue, Laurel Avenue, East End Avenue, and Driver Avenue. And I just want to thank this brand new staff, brand new commissioner over at DOT. Thank you very much. Brand new governor, thank you very much for the largest award as far as the New Jersey DOT grant. And there's going to be a lot of people that are very happy in Cedarwood Park East. Everybody, if you want to, drive through some of those roads and see the shape they're in, and you'll know how happy they'll be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Starkey.
No, I'm gonna cut mine short just in case anybody wants to get to IHOP tonight.
Yeah, thanks. Madam Clerk.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Hartman. Councilwoman Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to thank the chief and our officers for coming out tonight. Mr. Philippone, Nina Rattino, updating us on this. Not just school safety and security, but it's the safety and security of our entire town. And I'd like to thank all the members of the public who also spoke, because that's very important too. It couldn't have happened on a better night when we had our social services agencies here to receive their CDBG grant awards. It's a reminder of the number of agencies and organizations that we have here in Brick to help our residents with a variety of social service needs, whether it's housing or mental health or substance abuse. These are all things that it's all part and parcel, as the chief said, it's all part of the same big picture. I work full-time now in the area of substance abuse prevention, and we talk about risk factors and protective factors. Well, we know what the risk factors are. We know about crime in certain neighborhoods and the opiate problem and underage drinking and all those things. But what we saw here tonight was all the protective factors that come together in our community to help keep everyone safe. Oceans Harbor House took me by surprise. I knew they were a partner with us in the teen center. I didn't realize that that program had gotten so successful that they were now coming in with a funding request. So that's wonderful. That's another protective factor when our kids are there hanging out, playing video games. If there's an issue, if somebody comes up and talks about that creepy kid in school that they might vote most likely to be a school shooter, well, that's what they're there for, and that information is going to go right back to the police department. So that being said, I want to update you on a few other things that are going on. I've talked about the Sports Saturday program. That's part of our BMAC grant that's going on over at Civic Plaza. That will continue until Saturday, April 4th. It's once a week on Saturday. There's 2 sessions, an 8:30 and a 10:30. Starting this week, we're going to be doing information sessions for parents. That will be at 9 and 11 in the teen center. So parents who are dropping their kids off for Sports Saturdays can come in, have a cup of coffee, and hear about a brief 45-minute presentation about keeping your young athletes safe and opiate-free. And you don't have to have a child in the program in order to avail yourself of that. So if you're a parent of a young athlete of any age here in Brick Township, please stop by either at 9 or 11 starting this Saturday, and it'll be every Saturday until April 14th. You heard our Lead and Seed program mentioned tonight, the officers that are in our high schools and our middle schools. Well, the Lead and Seed program at Vets Middle School is going to be hosting a faculty-student basketball game on Thursday night. Doors open at 5:30. The game starts at 6. I'm not sure, it's a couple buck donation to get into the door, and the kids roll that money back into the work that they're doing in their schools. But our officers will also be there that night with the mobile prescription drop box. So if you have unused medications in your house, pack them up, bring them over to Vets, drop them off if you want to stay for a good time. I went last year and it was a great game. It was a lot of fun. You applaud the faculty and the students that participated, but that'll be this Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And then finally, BMAC will be having a clothing drive fundraiser. We were invited to do it in conjunction with the Green Fair. It's a perfect fit. So that'll be on Saturday, April 21st at Brick Township High School. So come out to the Green Fair, and it's also it's time to do your spring cleaning. Get rid of all those old winter clothes, pack them up, bring them over, put them in the truck, and then a few meetings ago we awarded a contract to a recycling vendor, and they'll take it back, they'll weigh it, and then they issue a check. I think it's like 20 cents a pound back to BMAC, and that goes to support our efforts there as well. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'm
Councilman
next.
Halloran.
Just firstly, thank you to all the grant recipients. They do a wonderful job, and they are such a support system. I couldn't possibly add to what Councilwoman Zapsik said. Congratulations to our Students of the Month. It's always great to see the young ones coming up and doing so well. And lastly, but certainly not least, let me thank the chief and his staff and all the officers in the department, along with Mr. Filippone, for the tremendous cooperation and communication. I've been watching in the last 2 weeks since the events in Florida, and reading a lot of statements from different departments, chiefs, and seeing it on TV, interviews and everything. And it's amazing how, after seeing what the chief and Mr. Filippone have really had in place for some time and are adding to that, to their capabilities, I think Brick has been ahead of the time for a long time. They've had procedures in place to protect our children, and I think they've been on top of their game and been very thoughtful in how they protect our children. So I'm proud of them, and I think we all should be. So thank you again.
Thank you. Vice President Crate.
Thank you. I just wanted to note, I wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight and for all of the comments that were made. I think the point of the evening for me is that relationships that we're building and that we have built are really the most important thing that's coming of all of this, honestly. The fact that our police department and our schools are so willing to work with each other so closely, that's not the case in every town. The fact that we as a council and the mayor are also willing to be on board to do whatever we can to keep not only the students of our schools safe, but really everyone in the town. We have a phenomenal police department. I am so grateful to, for the last 2 years, and now I have a couple years left, to really be able to work with them and help them become really one of the greatest in Ocean County and all of New Jersey. Everyone deserves to feel safe and protected. Our students, everyone in the town, people on the Barrier Island. Yes, okay, we'll give it to you.
We want to be safe too.
And I think that we're really in the forefront of making people feel that way, and opening up those relationships and making sure that we hear each other and that we understand the needs of the people of the town and the people in our schools. And I'd like to continue to work to build those relationships to the best of our ability. So thank you.
Thank you. Momola's not here. Councilman Fosman?
Thank you. I think working with the community, working with the public, going out and hearing what they have to say is key to any situation. Just like going out, like on February 15th, I attended the Senior Valentine's Day lunch, sitting down with them, talking to them, and listening to what they have to say, what their concerns are, if they're having a great day. It was a pleasant time being with them there, and you got to communicate with the public. And just like on February 17th, I did attend Rick's birthday party, and Mayor was there, and Andrea was there, and it was a good time. It was getting to see the kids, and they're having a great time. You had a magic show there, and it was very, the families were out. That's what the town's about. On February 20th, I attended a New Jersey Cannabis Business Association Local Officials Education Seminar, because that'll be coming up soon, and to be educated is the way to go. You should know everything you can. There was great speakers there. Dr. Sanjay Gupta was there. He is the president of the American Pain Association. You had Andrew Medevsky. He was an MD, board-certified neurologist. Is a pain management specialist. You also had Diane for the ACLU. She's a public counsel for the ACLU. You had police officers, retired DEA agents. You had the president of the Science Alternative Treatment Center there, and it was very informative, and that's the way you got to be here. You got to listen and get all the information you can. And in the evening of that day, I did go to a neighborhood watch meeting. It was here at the Princeton Commons came down. We were here in the A and B room. We're listening to concerns, and officers were going over various things and what's going on in an area. And neighborhood watch is key. Again, you listen to community, you want to hear what they have to say. And on February 21st, I attended a local cannabis seminar. It was at the Eagle Ridge Country Club. Councilwoman Zakzik ran that, and it was very informative. We had another speaker, and getting information again is key. I also attended the parents' meeting at the American Legion to hear their concerns on school safety. The chief was there, mayor was there, Councilman Art Halloran was there, and Councilman Mumala was also there to hear the parents' concerns. We were seeing what they want, what chief was given them, what they're doing in the schools. On February 22nd, I attended a ribbon cutting ceremony at the Home Care Assistance. They're located on 990 Bridge Avenue. They're near Carrabba's. Bob Scott is the owner of that, and congratulations, have another business in Brick. I attended another neighborhood watch on February 22nd meeting at the Parkway Pines off of Burnt Tavern Road and Bay Harbor, addressing community concerns. On February 23rd, I attended the PBA Awards dinner. Congratulations to all the award recipients there. And I'd like to thank Chief Riccio for his presentation and his proactive stance on the school security. And I'd just like to say, I spearheaded the Neighborhood Watch back 2 years ago. The chief was very interested in it, and he had 2 officers on the DARE program, John Alexander and Jason Shepard. And it's amazing how just going out in the community, and it started with one meeting at the Herbertsville Firehouse, and it expanded from there. But other programs came out of that. We went to Maple Leaf. Maple Leaf came out of that program. Andrea with the drugs, to get the drugs out of the seniors' homes, unused drugs, that came out of that program. So a lot of things happen when you start something. It expands all the time. And we have over 650 people involved in a neighborhood neighborhood watch throughout the town. That's fantastic. There's so many people communicating with the police. We have 262-1100. That's for the dispatcher. You hear anything? You see something? Say something. Call up. Let the police handle it. Don't do it yourself. It's really expanded. I'm really proud of that. I congratulate the students of the month. And I'm very excited about Bernie Cook Park, because back in 2013, when the mayor was a councilman, we put the money aside for 3 parks back then. And until he was mayor, it wasn't getting done. When he became mayor, those got done. I'm glad the parks are continuing on with that. And public comments here. I think we need that. We need to hear what people have to say. Everybody has something to say, and they should be able to come. If it's every week they come, it's every week. We should hear what they have to say, because it's going to be at one time when they're going to say something that, you know, instead of repeating themselves every week, they're going to actually, you know, there's something going to come out of it. And I think it's very important. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I, of course, have some buy and brick updates. Brick Flower Market. They were bought by new owners, and the new owners are still in our buy and brick program. Also, Falafel Brothers over in the Top Tomato Plaza, they have joined. It's pretty much that entire plaza. You have Paradise Pools, you have Bubbakoo Burritos, you have Angelo's Market, and you now have the Falafel Brothers. So it's a great place to do a little shopping and eating and get your pool serviced, I guess. I also want to thank Mr. DeLuca over at Brick Memorial High School. He had me in to speak with his business classes and just really talk about how government interacts with business. You know, we have ordinances, we have, you know, of course the big topic was, you know, how's the state going to regulate, you know, the legalization of marijuana, and how's the township going to react. So we had all that fun conversation. But even the simple programs, like we have the buy and brick program, we have the vacant storefront policy. So it's different things that we talked about so the kids know what to expect if they start their business and how to interact with their town. And of course, I want to thank the chief, Mr. Philippone, thank your department and all of your staff for all of your, it's really proactive diligence that you've been doing these last, you know, many years. I know I'm more comfortable having Jack and Alyssa in the schools, knowing that you guys have the plan, you guys know what to do. The officers are well trained along with our teachers, and they really have the protocols in place to keep our kids safe. So with that, I would like to announce that our next scheduled public caucus meeting is on Tuesday, March 13th at 7 p.m. Motion to adjourn? Motion. Sorry. Closed.